Thursday. And how about a little English beat for the man from St. Louis? That's right. Tony Messenger, good morning this morning.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly. How are you doing today?
We are doing great. Much better than Steve Stenger and Francis Slay. I say they should duke it out in a guns and hoses match.
You know, this is the problem with these sorts of things. We root on political division in St. Louis because we find it to be sport, but this is a big deal that is bad for our region. Steve Stenger trying to oppose the North-South Metrolink in any sort of way that is absolutely the future that almost all of the regional leaders are signing on to is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And I'm amazed by it. I'm amazed by how he's owning this and trying to accuse the city of fomenting. He sent a letter to the Federal Transit Administration that's signed by the head of Metro, that's signed by the head of East-West Gateway, that's signed by the head of City Development, that reinforces what was in the Ferguson Commission report, and that Steve Stenger had a chance to sign and refused to. It's one thing for him not to sign the letter. It's a completely different thing to send his own letter accusing those folks who are actually united behind the plan of fomenting division in our community. And it's just disappointing to me.
Tony, explain to everyone, to me, everybody, Steve Stenger, it sounds like, is upset that he wasn't part of the process. Is that true or false?
I believe that's his story, as readers at stltoday.com will find out later today in my column. I don't believe that is true. I believe that he and his staff have had numerous conversations with the mayor and his staff over North-South Metrolink. I think what's going on here is it's the mayor's last term, and Steve Stenger is trying to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm a big deal. Who's going to kiss my ring? When do I get to be in charge? And you know what? When you write a letter like this to the FTA, you haven't earned the right yet to have anybody kiss your ring.
You really think this is a game of ego and or one-upsmanship as opposed to something else?
I think it's more ego than anything else, because if Steve Stenger wants the 3 metro routes that he's talking about being built, there's no way the federal government supports them without North-South Metrolink getting built first. Understand, Steve Stenger is a partner in a federally designated promise zone in North St. Louis City and North St. Louis County. That promise zone is what's going to get us federal money. The county's already a partner in that. The federal government is not going to fund any Metrolink outside that promise zone without transit in that promise zone being built first. So Stinger's goal has to be, I support North-South Metrolink, and in exchange for that support, you guys are going to help me also build Metrolink from Clayton to Westport, or from the airport to the north, or from Clayton to the south. That's all great. That's an and sort of uniting goal, a big goal that's going to cost us as a region a lot of money. But if you're going to build transit, you have to build in the core of the city before you build out in the suburbs. That's just common sense. That's what the federal government's going to say. And so this isn't a play for more transit. All these other regional leaders support more transit. But everybody knows North-South has to get built first. Steve Stenger knows North-South has to get built first. I think this is an ego play, and I think he's got to learn to play that game a little bit better.
Tony Messenger, you talked about the federal grants. There's a 10-year plan. Realistically, how much of this has a legitimate shot of ever being built within the next 15 years?
If the region unifies, it can get done. And you talk to city leaders who are studying this carefully, and what they're looking at is what the city of Denver has done with mass transit. City of Denver has built a lot of mass transit over the past 2 decades. And St. Louis has an advantage. The last line that the city is building right now, one of its longest and most expensive lines in Denver, is the one to the airport. See, in St. Louis, we already go to the airport. We've already got the ability to get from the airport to Clayton and the airport to downtown. So we've got an advantage there. But what Denver does is Denver goes in a 5-county region and gets the entire community unified and says, you know what? We know there's not as much federal money available as there used to be. So we're going to go ahead and tax ourselves over a 5-county region, so it's not much. And we're all going to be unified because we know what this is going to do to build our economy, and they got it done. That's the model that city leaders in St. Louis are looking at, and if they adopt it with a regional model that includes St. Louis City, St. Louis County, folks on the other side of the river in Illinois, maybe even Franklin County and Jefferson County and St. Charles, if the region actually does what it never does, and what this stinger letter is an indication of what our problem is. If the region unifies, this can get done. We have the access to capital and the political will to make it happen, but we have to unify as a region.
That's Tony Messenger. Your column will be posted later today on stltoday.com?
Yes, sir.
Tony Messenger, never dull around here. Have a good weekend, Tony. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, McGraw.
All right. 825, Big 550.